So I guess just to give you some background, the podcast is called The Big Questions. And I always start with this question when I have new guests on. And to me, it's one of the most interesting questions. It always produces very interesting responses. So the question is, who are you?
I'm a pioneer, which means a calculating risk taker, with a vision how the future should be for on Earth and humanity.
That's a very good answer. So what makes you a pioneer?
I've been a pioneer my whole working career, from pretty much year one. I have 45 years career, and I would have never believed in advance what things I ended up doing and inventing and pioneering.
Yeah. So what are some of those things? What are some of those early experiences where you started to do this kind of work, avant-garde stuff?
Well, it's not avant-garde. I just got master's degree in naval architecture and marine engineering, and it happened so that thanks to Second World War, Finland owed Russia 80 ships as war payments. So Finland ended up building all Russian icebreakers, except for the biggest nuclear ones. And when I started my career, I went to work with the first ice model basin in the Western world that you can use to test icebreakers in a model scale.
Oh, okay.
And 1 year later, I was in charge of that facility.
Wow.
So I was 5 years in charge of that facility. So I was pioneering icebreaker design for Russia was how it started. We did this first. I mean, one of the first. Never midwinter has there ever been any ship traffic in any Russian Siberian rivers. So we built, it was a shipyard actually that I worked for, that owned the ice model basin. And we built an icebreaker for the river Lena. And that was the first ship ever to move midwinter. Wow. In ice, the 1 meter thick ice roughly there in the river.
Wow. So they had never built one for rivers before. They were always ocean.
For rivers, yes, but never wintertime. Because
oh, yeah, right.
The river is fairly shallow. And it's a real challenge to build a good enough icebreaker that you can break the winter thickness of ice. It was colder than minus 50 centigrade there, and 20, 30 knot wind, and we had to go to the ice. And
wow.
That I never, ever forget.
That was a highlight for you.
Well, that's certainly only one.
Yes, I know you have many, but that was one.
It's been written about in a book, even in a Finnish book.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting. I didn't know that about Finland owing Russia ships after World War II. That's fascinating.
Well, that's how it started.
Yeah.
But then ice breaking. So I got smitten with the ice breaking because it's just about anything that was done was new.
Yeah.
Very little had been done internationally about operating in ice.
Right. Yeah. So how long did you stay in that field, in that particular arena for?
45 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was because you had mentioned to me in the past about offshore oil stations in ice as well. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, the first 6 years really was about learning about ice breaking in a model basin and testing all kinds of new solutions. In Finland, mostly for Russia, not only for Russia, but mostly Russia, Finland, Sweden, etc. Mm-hmm. But then I got a call from Canada, where Dome Petroleum had started oil exploration in the Beaufort Sea. So I moved then 6 years later to Canada, to Calgary, which is where Dome Petroleum headquarters were. I became then individual in charge of the Arctic Research Department of Dome Petroleum.
Wow.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
So that was offshore oil exploration. That's how we learned how to keep vessels stationary in moving ice. The ice moves all the time in the Beaufort Sea.
Yeah.
You can't just do it and put it there. It never stays stationary. You have to have very special techniques for that. So that was the first in the world all around.
Wow. You just went from one to the next one. Hey,
Well,
first to
that's
this,
right.
first to that.
and then I mean, but the big one really was at the end of the, not the end of the career, but about 15 years later, I had been developing icebreaker innovations. Again, new icebreaker designs which operate way more efficiently, especially in the offshore.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up being in charge of the safety of the first ever Russian offshore oil in the Okhotsk Sea, because it happened to happen in floating ice, part of the year floating ice. So in 8 years, about 15, 16 times we went there, at least more, I think, 2 times a year when the winter ended and when the winter started,
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of months each time.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's interesting because it sounds like you've been to many different places through this career and you've seen all kinds of places, but they're all frozen places.
Yeah, of course.
You're never going to the Caribbean or anything, it's always
Well, yeah.
Siberia, northern Canada.
No, that's not quite true, because on free time, I mean, Linda and me,
Yeah.
we purchased even a property in Hawaii.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we spent 8 years, we spent 2 to 3 months a year in Hawaii. That was a counterbalance.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, you need something warm to counter effect all of the Arctic stuff you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, when along that 45-year journey did you meet Linda?
That was before the Russian project, nearly 10 years, 8 years before the Russian project, 1991.
Okay.
And that was, of course, I was in Canada then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
In Calgary.
Yeah. How did you like Calgary?
I did actually like, I had been to Calgary already in the 70s because Canada needed some of the icebreaking expertise earlier too.
Yeah.
So, and I went to Calgary with a suit on with a friend of mine. We were going to the Arctic to measure ice, flying over the ice and landing on the ice and measuring ice thickness in the Canadian Arctic. So it's possible to establish how the Pan-Arctic oils could be exported from the high Arctic islands archipelago.
Wow.
So that was a mission for why we would get to Calgary.
Right.
So we came one day early. So they said, well, what should we do? Oh, go to Banff. So we had our suits on and took a bus to Banff and climbed the mountains with the suits on.
Yeah, you didn't get dressed for the occasion.
But we had no idea what Banff even is.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Well, it sounds like you're probably used to the cold. I imagine you tolerated it well enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what brought you to Vancouver Island, and when did you come, and what kind of brought you here in the end?
Well, think about, I'm a naval architect. Calgary is 1,000 kilometers from the ocean.
Okay.
I always missed all my childhood. I spent all summers on the ocean. I lived very close to the ocean too. So it was like a place in the middle of nowhere, except for when I went to the Beaufort Sea.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
But that was only a small part of the year. So I've been missing the West Coast very much.
Yeah.
Because having visited, actually Linda and me came for honeymoon into Victoria.
Yeah.
And that was it.
You liked it,
we didn't move then, but I mean, that was definitely one of the key things that influenced all of this. I just loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that we live here, because it's like, I've met many people that have visited once and ended up moving here. Like multiple people that I know came here to visit and they're like, no, I'm staying. It's a pretty awesome place. So, so when you moved here, were you still working in the same field, doing the naval engineering and everything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was actually, it was moving here was pretty close to simultaneous when the Russian offshore project started.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And So something that you mentioned in the video about your home, your harmless home, you said that your father back in the 70s was kind of raising alarms over climate change. So
Yeah, it was not literally about climate change, but overconsumption on Earth
okay, yeah.
was the primary. But it also he mentioned climate. It was in the International Lions Club meeting that he presented that, because nobody really heard much of it. It was published in the paper. It's in Finnish, by the way, so it doesn't, the paper itself.
Yeah.
But the presentation was in English.
And so he was presenting sort of his findings or trying to say like, hey, this looks like it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, his opinion was that when he looks at what's happening, is that the whole humankind is going in the wrong direction. Is that we need to start to change the direction no later than perhaps about year 2000 in order to kind of have a sustainability here.
Yeah, yeah. And so it sounds like your father was a pretty intelligent man as well. What was his career? What did he do for work?
He was very brilliant. He's got the best mark in every school, only best marks.
Yeah.
But he came from a very poor family from Karelia, which was taken over by Russians actually after the war. So he was the only out of 9 sisters and brothers who got to go to university.
There's a box for you.
Okay, buddy, thank you. You're interrupting me though. I don't. Sorry about that. Sai, close the door, please. Oh, sorry. 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Cyrus, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. They are. Thank you. Gosh. My apologies. There was a package delivered and it couldn't wait. They had to tell me all about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So that. So he was the only one that the parents put to university because the teachers said, and he's got some extra funds outside to go to university. So he became a civil engineer.
Okay.
And being a civil engineer, he was one who literally created the methodologies how to do airports, railroads, and roads for the country after the Second World War.
Oh wow! So he's in charge of a big
He
project.
did a doctorate in the civil engineering, and that was his specialty. There's a kind of geology.
Oh, very cool. One question that I've been meaning to ask you in our conversations is spirituality. Did you grow up with religion, or did you have a relationship or connection to religion throughout your life at all?
Yes, and most Finns are actually Lutheran. So I grew as a Lutheran, but I never really connected with spirituality. It was just part of life, part of school. It was not something that was central to my life. All the real spirituality only came mostly when with Linda. But it is not to any specific religion. It is simply about the connection with people, a connection with earth, connection with life, without any specific religion itself.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It was a lot of people seem to have that kind of experience with religion, as they grow up with it, but it's just something that they do. It's not really, something that resonates with them. So you didn't carry anything over from your Lutheran days.
Well, the basic lessons, there were lots of good lessons in the Finnish school, because it was one of the topics was the religion that was taught at school.
Yeah. And your connection, you say your connection to people, your connection to the earth, that kind of ties into what you're doing now, right? Because you're no longer a naval engineer now. So what are some of the projects and things that you're up to these days?
It started with this whole sustainable home, eco home. It was about a little bit after the year 2000 when we started to think we need to really reduce our own eco footprint. So we went to one event where, amongst other, Jack Anderson was there, and Gord Baird was there to present things, and a couple of other eco builders who had built eco homes. Mm-hmm. So that was an inspiration. And then we put on our own roof solar panels and hot water heating panels as well. Yeah. And then we started learning about how does it all work. Everybody claimed that the hot water heating is really good and pays itself. It turned out the other way around. Solar panels were the ones, not the hot water. Nice. But anyway, so that's where the eco started. 2000, after year 2000, 2004 perhaps was pretty close to that year.
And so from that one presentation, you decided that, again, to move in that direction. And so the first thing you did was install solar panels on your own roof.
Yeah, and second one was then getting electric cars as soon as they came. As soon as the Nissan Leaf was published here, it was pretty close. 2012, we had Nissan Leaf as the first electric car.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm very happy with it.
Oh yeah. Was it a good, I was going to ask, is it a good electric car to have?
Oh yeah. First it was me who was driving it, and Linda drove on the CRV. But then when we got Tesla 2 years later, then it became Linda's art car. And Linda loved it just as much as I did.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And how about you? What's your preference, Tesla or Leaf?
Well, it's very difficult to beat Tesla.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest difference really is the range.
Yeah.
For all practical purposes, you can go anywhere with Tesla.
Yeah.
But Leaf, when we went to Seattle with Leaf, you had to stop every 50 kilometers or something.
Wow.
There were chargers which were supercharger type. It was an air environment with the network of the chargers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. But they're scattered around, so you can find one when you need it.
Yeah, they're not scattered around. That was the beginning of this. So you had to really plan and think. Wow. And every Nissan dealer had a supercharger.
Yeah.
So you could stop at Nissan dealer to charge your car as well.
You got to map it out.
Without any charge,
right.
You didn't need to pay for it.
Yeah. And so what's the difference then? Is it the battery, the quality of the battery? It just holds more energy and you can just drive more with the Tesla, or what's the difference there?
Well, I mean, the key difference, of course, is size of the battery.
Okay.
Batteries were quite early in their stage. I think it was like 24 kilowatt hour battery or something like that.
Okay.
And your range is 150 kilometers, so something like that most. Yeah. But that's only driving carefully. If you drive fast, forget the 150 kilometers.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the first Tesla had right away 440 kilometer range.
Wow.
Okay. That made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. You can go anywhere, like you said. That's a big range.
Yeah. And not only that, but of course, it's Tesla Model S was a luxury car. I mean, Nissan was a very handy compact car.
Yeah.
Everyday use for short driving. Nothing wrong. We just loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and driving around Victoria or, Western communities, you're probably good. But yeah, you want to go a little further up island or something like that, it becomes a hassle.
Yep.
Yeah. So solar panels on the roof, then the electric cars. Now, what's the next step for Arno?
Well, then it was because we thought that we built something that is fairly eco-friendly in year 2000 already. Mm-hmm. But there was no knowledge about how to build this. I mean, sure, there was like Anne and Gord Baird. They had built their house, which is with blood, sweat, and tears, lot of own labor, because there's no construction company for any of that.
Right.
So we said, well, you need to do something that can be industrially reproduced, because otherwise, there's very, very few people who put their own effort and their own lives. Love and work into building their own home. Mm-hmm. There are some, but it's a very small percentage of people.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, because I earned good money from my business. So it was not my own labor that was important. My own ideas, how do we actually do something that is sustainable and eco-friendly? But initially, the eco-friendliness was more about the energy. Mm-hmm. and to a degree CO2, but CO2 wasn't really talked about that much then.
Yeah.
But just the fact that when you put enough solar panels, you can create energy, and then it counters the kind of energy consumption, energy extraction from the earth with oil and coal and all those things are no good.
Yeah.
That was, of course, it's not so much about CO2 only. It's CO2, yes, but it is also the toxicity.
Yeah. So what are some of the toxic elements in the average home that you've discovered in your research, or what are some of the things that are toxic?
Yeah, it's first of all, you have to make sure that the air is clean inside the house. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the VOCs, volatile organic compounds, are pretty much everywhere in all the oil-based paints, chipboard, even it contains quite a lot of it, mm-hmm. and all the fire retardants and bug repellents that are put into bedding, furniture, carpets, and all those things.
Yeah,
they create VOCs.
Right, and that's toxic, basically.
That is, yeah, they are.
Yeah,
and they do influence in people's. I'm not quite sure how much it influences, but we know that there's. I read a book about the high rise in Miami that was so toxic that people even died. An office building.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and again, like you're using, drywall and, which is, all that stuff. The insulation's got fiberglass in it. Like it's not healthy materials, you know what I mean? So it's not a stretch to see how it's not healthy for us to be living in those types of environments.
Yeah, it's not the kind of the wall itself is not so bad, but I mean, especially in Victoria, the one thing we learned from our first, what we call already a step into eco, mm-hmm. it started forming mold.
Yeah, that's because of the vapor barrier.
Mold is a very toxic.
Yeah,
that's no good for human health.
No, exactly. Yeah, and the vapor barrier inside the wall, that's what creates the mold, or the condensation, which leads to the mold. So
well, exactly, you got it right. I mean, in my mind, when you get an airtight home and there's a plastic sheet, depending on what the climate, temperature, and humidity conditions are, one side or the other, there's condensation.
Yep.
And when enough of that happens, guess what? It means mold.
Yeah, for sure.
So
when you built your first Eco House, what were some of the things that you did differently to make it less impactful?
Well, it was, we light the hot water heating. We had floor heat as a main heating system. Yeah. So there's a water pipe going in the floor. And that's why what we thought that, okay, the hot water solar collectors are good for eco.
Right.
And for electric use, the solar panels are good. So those were the two key things. In terms of construction and the quality of the house construction, I don't think that there were any significant attention put those days at all. That was year 2000.
Right.
We only kind of woke up to the house itself. I mean, but knowing that we started to see mold.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Then in 2004, when we woke up to this, we said, oh yeah, well, we built what we thought is eco-friendly, but it's only a very small step towards it.
Right. So what was the next step then? Now that you realize you can do better.
Next step was, other than those electric cars, the next step was we started to look for a place to build an ultimate eco home.
Yeah.
But when we had the idea to build the ultimate eco home, we didn't have any idea how ultimate it can actually even be. Yeah. So we hired a known eco house builder to evaluate the various kind of building envelope options, how eco-friendly and what the prices of those are. Mm-hmm. So we had 4 different exterior wall alternatives compared, and we were nearly ready to commit to something that contained concrete even. But then the architect for our house, Jack Anderson, who's on that video that you saw as well, he had designed us an eco home without really knowing what the exterior walls are going to be. He told them about the just biofiber.
Okay.
So I said, oh, that sounds very interesting, because suddenly it shifts everything to a totally different ballpark, totally different level. So I went to Calgary, West, just north of Calgary is where the Just Biofiber company was, and met the inventor, Mac Radford, and his brother, Terry Radford. Terry Radford was the president of the company, and Mac was the vice president and the innovator, the real innovative soul of the company. And I not only those, I met also an engineer, Turkish guy, Eren Kansarsu, who had worked with the biofiber company to create this and evaluate these just biofiber blocks that were used in our new house.
Mm-hmm.
So the commitment to that was very obvious, simply based on what I saw and heard in that one visit there from the inventor and from this engineer. They had already evaluated the key things and demonstrated the key things that were very, very obvious. They said, well, first of all, it doesn't form any mold. It just breathes the humidity through. So there's no kind of condensation in the wall. And then the second one was, it doesn't burn. It's made out of hemp hurd and lime plaster mixed. And when you try to burn lime, it releases CO2, and that is your fire extinguisher.
Right.
So it's a self-distinguishing.
So these are hemp, basically hemp and lime bricks, almost like big Lego blocks.
Yes. Well, the reason why you can call it Lego block, because it's not only the hemp and lime there, but it has a structural frame built into those blocks, which helps them stack exactly like Legos.
Yeah, yeah.
The structural frame is what provides the strength. The hempcrete, as it's called hempcrete, this whole hemp and hurd and lime combination.
Yeah.
And building with hempcrete doesn't provide any structural strength. You need to have some other way to provide the structural strength. It provides very good insulation and breathing through humidity, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not structural. And that is actually what I've heard about hempcrete, because in the past I've wondered why we don't use it more, but in like commercial construction and stuff, it needs to be structural. And but these blocks essentially fix that problem.
Yes, it is. I mean, the real innovation is the structural members inside the blocks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they are extremely strong. They are kind of, it's a little bit of a secret compound. There's many patents around all of this.
Oh yeah.
But they do replace very well structural, present very good structural strength.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the video, I think one of maybe the inventor was saying that they get stronger as they cure. So over the years, they actually become more like harder, or is that?
Yes, you have to remember one thing: the Chinese wall and Egyptian pyramids used hemp. They were built out of limestone, hemp and lime.
Yeah,
and they stayed there thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when the lime cures, it absorbs CO2 when it cures.
Okay.
And it gets really much harder.
Right.
So first year when you put a nail in the wall, on the biofiber wall, you can pull it out with your fingers.
Yeah.
If you put a screw, then it's very easy to fingers. Well, not easy, but you can even screw it out very easily.
Yeah, yeah.
2 years later, good luck getting the nail in there. Or certainly, absolutely not getting it out easily at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But and screws go there like solidly.
Yeah.
It's way more solid than any house walls that I see.
Wow. And how many years will it take to fully cure?
They say that, I mean, remember, it absorbs CO2 from the air. The inventor, I'm not an expert at it, but the inventor says that it takes somewhere between 50 and 100 years to absorb, for our house, maybe 25 to 50 tons of CO2 from the air.
Wow. So the
So
building itself absorbs CO2. Your
yeah,
house is sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere and
that's correct. Yes.
storing it in the bricks.
So the early part of its life.
Yeah.
And the reason, and because of that, actually, the Just Biofabric company is certified by government as a carbon negative construction company.
So not carbon neutral, carbon negative, because it
Yeah.
reduces. Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. That is fascinating. So is this company now shipping these blocks? Are they being used widely, or is this still kind of a low key thing that not a lot of people know about?
Well, it's not about people knowing. There's a lot of people who know and would want to have that. There's a bit of a difficulty that the inventor, whoever invents things, is very good at inventing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's invented several new patents which are improving a lot of things and add-ons to this, not only the exterior walls, but even the foundation and flooring and roofing systems, etc.
Yeah.
There's many improvements which are now patented. However, he has not been very good at managing getting it to the building code.
Right. Oh, I see.
The whole construction system is not fully approved in the building code. And
Okay.
that's his challenge. And so before it's in the building code, it's really one-off pioneering homes which have been built mostly.
Yeah. So how do we change the building code, Arno? How do we do that?
No, we don't change the building code. We actually, at this time, I am becoming a part of that company too.
Yeah.
But my role will be the promotional, technological promoter.
Yeah.
Who knows and measures from our house that characteristics and eco characteristics specifically are measured and evaluated very extensively. So it's my role to spread the word about how it's how this house works and put even numbers against it.
Yeah. But is the intent then sorry, not to change the building code, but to get these added to the building code to make it so that they're a part of it?
Yeah. You don't change building code. The code requirements are clear. It needs to tolerate fire, earthquakes, be strong enough, fire. I mean, all these things are clearly defined what the requirements are.
Yeah, they just need to understand that these biofiber bricks meet all of those criteria.
Yeah, but they only understand when it's fully measured.
Right. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're using your house then as the kind of like the test subject so that you can demonstrate all of the things you need to show them.
No, not all of the things. Only how the house performs for people who live in it.
Oh, okay.
So the building code issue is something that is a topic that people who are experts in construction are the ones to put it to the code.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. So you're basically trying to get the word out there and be the promoter by showing the results, essentially.
Yes, we have lived now here nearly 3.5 years, well over 3 years.
Yeah. So, you've got the biofiber bricks, you've got solar panels on your roof. What else are you doing in terms of sustainability and, negative impact on the environment?
Yeah, my thinking has changed these last 3 years quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So when we started, it was self-sustainable in terms of water. We have a well, which is low producing well, but we also collect rainwater. Mm-hmm. We have really good storage, so it doesn't matter what we do with the water, we have enough for itself. Yeah. And then we are applying a level 2 septic system, which means it's not just dumping the septic water to the nature, it is actually taking bacteria out of it. So it's healthy water to the nature that goes out of our septic system to nature.
Wow.
And then, well, what else would there be? Yeah, of course, now the fact that BC Hydro allows the net metering, we are using net metering here, meaning that when we produce more, using solar panels, when we produce more electricity than we consume, the meter goes one way. And when we consume more than produce, then the meter goes the other way.
Right.
So they are looking at the net every month.
Yeah. And what's been the outcome of that over the last three years that you've lived there?
Well, first of all, BC Hydro only accepts kind of the, what was it? They don't accept for net metering something that is too powerful, because it's not supposed to be a power generation station what we built.
Right.
But this house outperformed all expectations in terms of energy consumption so much that we have produced annually, the solar system produced about 22 megawatt hours per year, and we have used about 15.
Oh, wow.
And that's between the house and 2 electric cars.
Wow. See, I was under the impression that in this part of the world, because of the weather and lots of rain and clouds during the winter time, that solar wasn't really viable, like photovoltaic solar wasn't viable, or it wouldn't be effective enough. But like your house is making more energy than you consume.
Yes, actually, the thing is that initially BC Hydro even paid us back money when we produced more than we consumed, because we had not put more electricity on those panels than was allowed based on the formulas at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just that the house outperforms so much what was expected.
Yeah.
That's why we produce so much extra energy.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. So I guess maybe my information is just out of date, and the panels, nowadays are a lot more effective.
Well, I think the panels haven't changed that much in effectiveness, but I can tell you in very simple terms that we pay zero for electricity, and actually even BC Hydro owes us. Now they stopped actually paying back money,
of course,
but they would keep a credit on that. So, but that means that all the electricity that our house consumes, as well as these 2 electric cars, are prepaid by the installing the electric system.
Wow. Yeah.
And if you, for example, as a reference, 2 electric cars, if you would have a petrol burning similar cars, the petrol savings alone in 12 years would save the whole cost of the electric solar system.
Just the cars.
It costed about 50,000 the solar system, and simply the petrol savings would have saved.
Well, and that's if prices stay the same and don't go whoop, which they're doing that now, right? So
it means at that time it's getting even so.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then on top of that, you've got your actual energy consumption for the house. So I mean, so what you're saying is it probably pays for itself a lot faster than that.
Yes, it does. Now the other thing is that, so the performance, like I said, it exceeded expectations in terms of the eco performance. So do you know about the step code of the house construction, the building?
I don't believe so.
Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the CO2 measure of how much energy the house consumes.
Okay.
And step 5 is passive house.
Right.
Step 1 is where the construction industry was when the step code was introduced first, just a few years ago.
Right.
I think they are somewhere the big industry goes from step 1 to 2 to 3 to improve the eco performance.
Right.
So the passive house uses about half of what the standard house would have used. Our house uses 80% of what the passive house uses.
Oh, wow.
So we go straight to step 5 and better.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
Which was totally unexpected by me.
Yeah. And does that take into account the CO2 that is being absorbed by your house as well?
No, it's just the energy itself.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, when you take all of those things into account, I mean, that's a massive impact. And it seems like if we just started building houses like this instead of the traditional way, it would probably start to have a measurable impact on climate change, if you did it widespread enough.
It's not, this is I must say, this is where my thinking has changed quite a bit. I didn't realize that the life of these kinds of houses, lifetime could be 500, who knows, 1,000 years that envelop the house itself.
Yeah.
So in today's world, what I hear from builders is typically houses of 50 to 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you consume every 50 or 100 years resources to build another home,
Yeah.
that is very, very kind of consumption unfriendly. I mean, it is very high consumption.
Yeah.
Whereas when house can stay much, much longer, that's a much more sustainable life.
Yeah, right. So that's another factor that goes into it on
Well,
top of all the other low impact, energy saving factors. It's like you're also not having to build as many homes because these ones will last probably a lot longer than the average. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, that one is by far the biggest factor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about if the house lasts, for example, 5 times longer. So that puts the kind of embodied carbon footprint only to 20% of what normal homes have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Wow.
of the longer lifetime.
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
fascinating.
the kind of rough calculation indicates that our house for 2 people is too big for that to be on one earth resources.
Mm-hmm.
But if we build a similar home as, say, some standard people would build out of the biofiber,
Mm-hmm.
that would be within the one earth resources.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So what's the next milestone for you then with this project or with this sort of this movement? Like you're actively measuring some of the metrics of your own home. What's the next sort of step for you?
For me, maybe I retired many years ago from my work. Maybe I even retired from this house business too.
But with the biofiber company, you're actively, again, what's your promotion plan, or what's your sort of strategy for getting this stuff out there and really pushing it?
Yeah, it's right now at the University of Victoria is doing a master's thesis about this house.
Wow.
To measure and evaluate the embodied carbon and the operational carbon.
Yeah.
So one of the big challenges in my mind is that mostly only the embodied carbon is what's evaluated for people. Price, I mean, that's what the building code evaluates. It doesn't evaluate the operational carbon.
Okay.
And people buy the house based on the price. But if the price of the house is using this technology is about the same as a regular home,
mm-hmm.
This is a clear winner. And it sure looks like the price is going to be, I mean, when the mass production gets going, the price is no more than regular house.
Mm-hmm.
And given all the other things, then the operational carbon being very low, this becomes a winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it really sells itself when the data is fully documented, when the measurements are fully done. The master's thesis about the house is intending to do that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that we can get this out there, because I mean, it seems like a huge step in the right direction in terms of where we need to go as a species. We can't just keep doing what we're doing. So I always tell people, I know there's a better way, but I don't always know what that better way is. And I feel like what you're doing with this biofiber and the solar and everything is filling that blank for me. It's like, here's an example of a better way to do things.
Yeah, but this is only step one.
Mm-hmm.
You should realize one thing. I mean, one of the best experts in British Columbia and in construction industry, whose name is Albert de Caella. He was a professor at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. He developed all the wooden construction technology, mm-hmm. even to high rises.
Yeah.
Now he stated just a few weeks ago, he said, well, now we need to do better. And it's easy to do better because the hemp, when it grows, absorbs CO2 7 times faster than trees when they grow. And that's a huge difference. So it stops making any sense cutting trees and using that for construction when hemp can do better, way better.
At every step of the way, when you grow it, and then again, when you're using it in the building materials, it's also absorbing carbon. So we should be growing fields and fields of it right now.
Well,
And
the demand for hemp is increasing actually now.
it's, yeah, as it should. I mean, I've always thought it should be illegal to basically manufacture paper that's based out of trees. Like you know what I mean? Like you want to change, you want to push climate change and you want to do something, make it a law that paper, toilet paper, all of these products, you can't cut down trees anymore. You use hemp. That this is it. Because it's like, why are we cutting down trees to make something to wipe our butts with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you can use, again, hemp, and as you grow hemp, it grows faster than trees. And as it's growing, it absorbs more carbon than trees. So it's like, why are we doing this? Right? It's again, the old way of doing things.
Yeah. But see, I think this is a different topic, not entirely, but it is. I think our society runs so much based on the money and the big money, big companies specifically.
Yeah.
It's their way till the people wake up to that there's a better way. So I feel that it is the normal people who do understand the basics when they are presented simple enough, and when the data and information is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are trying to create an undeniable, fully covering set of data to demonstrate how this works and how much better it is. Then when people want it, then the big money said, oh, we better wake up to this.
Yeah. Then they jump on the bandwagon. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult. Typically in a big society, the biggest companies are the ones, they talk to the politicians. They are the ones who got the ear of the politicians because they are big employers of people.
They are. They're also big recipients of government money.
Well, yes, that's true. But
that's socialism for them, and it's capitalism for the rest of us, it seems. A lot of companies, especially during COVID, I heard a lot of them got big payouts. While small businesses floundered and failed, these big companies that should have enough money to withstand some difficulties, they were just taking millions of dollars. So it's but you're right. It's a connected topic, but certainly maybe the next topic that we will discuss if you want to do this again, because I know there's lots to talk about there as well. And I think that your views on the political and some of the stuff that's happening right now in the world, I think are also views that I would like to explore with you.
Yeah. I believe that there's two things we need to really seriously look at differently. One is the consumption itself. Stop overconsumption. Otherwise, we are kicking ourselves in the foot.
Mm-hmm,
and the other one is stop the toxification of everything.
Yeah.
Nature and people, both, all of that suffers from the toxicities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, talking about nature like it's separate from anything else, like, it's either the economy or nature. Well, guess what? There's no economy without nature. Nature is the foundation of everything that we think we have. Everything that we are is founded on nature. So polluting the air that we breathe, the water that we drink. I feel like you don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that that's a bad idea.
Yeah. And it's not only people, even now the oceans themselves, with the oceans grow a lot of our food. Yeah. And lots of natural resources too. Yeah. And when those get toxified, that's no good. Yeah. I mean, it is, there's two opposing opinions about the climate change itself. One says, well, it happens slow enough that we can build against it. I don't believe that's true, actually. When Greenland ice melts, and it is accelerating very rapidly, that melting, it raises the water ocean 4 or 5 meters, 4 to 6 meters. It's not easy to say exactly how much. But it doesn't happen in a linear fashion. When you look at the storm here a week ago, it happens as a series of extreme events which get more extreme and more frequent. Yeah. So it's very difficult to build again. I mean, I believe in prevention. It doesn't really matter whether it's health or future or life here or nature. Yeah. Prevention is by far the least expensive and most efficient.
Yeah. But it requires foresight from people who are
Yes,
looking to do 4 years worth of work because they're elected on 4-year cycles. And if I don't do something in my 4-year cycle, I won't get reelected. So it's not about long-term thinking and long-term planning. It's about what can I do in these 4 years to get reelected. And unfortunately, yeah, that's the world that we live in. There's not a lot of long-term proactive thinking out there. It's all reactive.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. Yeah. We talk about whether government runs a country or people run the country, and it government tries to run more and more and more, especially these days.
Yeah. It doesn't represent us, that's for sure.
No.
Unfortunately, but I think people are starting to wake up to it, and yeah, I hope that they do, because nothing good will come of this.
Well, why do you say they? We.
Well, I mean, I'd like to think that I'm already a hip to the game. I think,
Yeah, yeah,
I know, again, my views on politics are quite simple. Like red team, blue team, same company, just two different wings, like whether it's the liberals or the conservatives, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, it's all broken. The system, the political
yeah,
system is deeply broken. And,
yeah,
until somebody has the guts to get in there and actually start making real systemic changes to this broken system, it's just going to keep getting worse. So eventually more of us will wake up to this fact, I think. And then when they're ready, we'll actually make some changes happen.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we could talk at length about that, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think that would be the next one. The other thing I want to talk to you about as well is how can we build a harmless village? How can we build small communities out of this sort of philosophy that you're using for your home? Because I think the next step is changing how we live together, changing the idea of what a community is, and becoming more self-sustaining and self-reliant in groups, not just in a solo scenario.
Yeah, I mean, with this biofiber solution that now I'm in some way part of, it sounds that there's in Alberta a native community who gets quite a bit funding for their housing. And the building codes don't, strictly speaking, apply in the native communities.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be possible to expand these operations based on applying it in the native land.
Okay.
Well, would make the natives leaders in this situation, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really like that idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. That would be one. Yeah, that's a great application. And then you're not dependent on that building code situation anymore. I mean, yeah. Very cool. So when's that? Do you guys have concrete plans around that at all?
No, I mean, it's something I can't really much talk about more.
Okay.
But all I'm saying
Yeah.
is that
Understood.
it is something that is being raised as a quite realistic possibility.
Wow.
See, the one thing that will take time is building facilities to mass manufacture these blocks.
Yeah.
That's not inexpensive. It takes time and it takes money.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the production like right now? I know you said they started off manually producing these one brick at a time. Do they have some mass production capabilities?
Yes, they do, but it's still way too slow. See, our blocks, we had 2,700 blocks in the house, and they are built by 2 people manually, each 10 minutes a piece.
Oh my God.
So that's a heck of a lot of labor.
Yeah. Well, and when you can mass produce it, I imagine it makes the blocks more affordable as well, right? Because if you're paying
Yes.
2 people full time to make one block every 10 minutes, you got to charge accordingly. When you can mass produce them, then, obviously it becomes more affordable.
Yeah, it's we paid $25 a block, and now I understand the block price is probably about 10.
Wow.
When it gets done.
Wow.
And it can drop even below that with the mass production.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I want to get in on this. I think it's the way of the future. And so do you need special tools or special equipment to assemble it? Because when I was watching the video, it seemed like, there's quite the process, right? You got to put the cement on, and then you slam the block down and you tap and all that stuff. But is there any special process involved other than that?
Yes, there's like every new technology, it takes steps to learn to make it more efficient and faster.
Yep.
When they built the lower level, this house is a half lower level.
Yeah.
They said, well, it takes probably a week to build a wall for the lower level. It took 4 weeks because the methodology was not really established well.
Yeah.
So then when the main level of the house was built, they built it in per block, in half the time.
Right.
Less than half the time, actually. So they were twice as efficient already. And now they can do, I know, even faster.
Yeah. So does the
And
manufacturer also install them, or is there a company that specifically installs these? How does that work?
Well, yeah, initially the intent was that the biofiber company teaches our contractors, employees to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that biofiber company didn't even know self how to do it. So they ended up having a contractor who works with them full time to do all the exterior walls, not our contractor.
Gotcha. Okay. So they have their own special guy that they use because
Yes, they
knows how to do it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No,
The one thing that is a challenge here on this continent, plaster work is very rare in house construction in Canada.
Yeah.
In Europe, it's a trade that is very well established and it's used a lot.
Yeah.
Not here.
Yeah.
So that is shortage of plastering experts. We saw that here. Even.
And so were there people on the island, just not many, but were there some that could do it?
Well, yeah, the guy who did the plastering work for our house practically by himself with an assistant. Wow. He's a German guy who had learned of all of this in Germany, not here.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, that's, I think, a great first episode for you, Arno. I really appreciate your time and sharing information about this technology and your Harmless House. I think it's super cool, and like I said, I think it's the way of the future. I just am excited for what you're going to do next and how quickly we can get this out there, because it needs to be out there.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Okay. Thank you, Oli.
Hey, thank you, Arno. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye for now.